Live from the Real Guppy Dockside Learning and Multimedia Center. It's the Real Angler Podcast with Community Kevin Brannon. Brought to you by AFTCO Fishing Apparel and Tackle. Designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing. Offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats. And more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. And now, here's your host, Community Kevin Brannon. Today's guest, Lola Cruz, author of Lupita's Treasure.
Good morning and welcome to the Dockside Learning Center. We're here with the familiar face, a good friend of ours, D-Lo. That's her name now. That's her real name. Just abbreviated, but she goes by Lola Cruz, and she's the author of a children's book that you've seen before, Lupita's Treasure. And we did a kid fishing day here where we got some of the fish that I caught, and we made fish tacos because she talks about making tortillas and that. And I've been following her on Instagram since we've met and watching all the incredible work that you're doing in schools and neat stuff. So we have Lola Cruz as her author name that she goes by. She requests to know that name and get it out there. She can tell us about her new book that's coming out, and she's going to be a guest speaker this year and see what more we could do in collaborative efforts as we continue to write children's books. You can see with this shot, we're not in the office today. We're out here in the classroom, and you can see our children's workbooks, working on our 7th children's workbook that'll be out just in time for the blue carpet premiere. You can see it right there. It says, check out Isabella's children's workbook called Shorebirds. We're just doing some, you know what it's like, right? Where you got to take it and condense it.
Absolutely.
Scotty's an author too, right? So you send this over to them and then they help condense it. And we're excited for that. So today we're going to talk about children's workbooks and following your dream and about your new book. So Lola, tell us what's going on, the name of your book, and jump in wherever you want.
All right.
And again, great. It's really good to have you back on the show. And I know last year we talked about doing more work together, but with our schedules, it didn't really click. But this year we got the Oceans of Opportunity schedule there, so we're going to put her on the calendar before she leaves today. Yes. And that's going to be more of our speaking engagement series.
About that.
So
yeah, great. Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I want to say Happy New Year to all the listeners out there. Yes, I'm Lola Cruz, and I am a children's book author, and I'm local. This is Lupita's Treasure, and it's actually a series. So this was book 1, and I just have to say a little bit about it. And, I have to credit Kevin and the team here because at the Real Guppy Learning Center, I had written Lupita's Treasure, and life happened for me. I was moving, and I had a life quake, something like an earthquake in my life. And
let me write that down.
Yeah, and big changes going on. So I moved here to the area, met Kevin, had the book, and he was the one that really promoted it because I just had it out the door, but things were going on in my life and I hadn't moved forward with it. So he really put me on the right track. If you didn't get a chance to be here for that event, I shared my book. Tortillas are central to my story. And I brought the masa, the tortilla press, the kids, parents, made tortillas. Kevin caught fish. We had fish tacos out there. Uncle Dave brought his world famous mango salsa. We had just had such a wonderful time. But what it did is it connected me also with the community. And from there, it really started me on my author journey. So I will never forget that. That is like one of the most special moments of being an author. We took her on tour,
man. We took you to the radio station with us and stuff. Yeah, it was a special guest. So
it was
if
so
you
much
need
fun.
a promoter or a hype man, something that we're working on our own strategic planning for Kev to help in that area, feel free to reach out to help promote or for our guidance, or what's the term, advisory or, stuff like that. You might need a specialist.
Well, you were a mentor for me. You really, put me on track and asked the right questions for me. And from there, I can say that over the last, year and a half, I've been at, most of the libraries. I've been at bookstores. I have been at schools. I have been at community events. And things are still showing up. But I'm also here to talk about book 2 in the series. Book 1, Lupita's Treasure, just real quick to kind of back up here, was really about a little girl who's struggling with finding what to bring for show and tell at school. Mm-hmm. But the real story behind it is that she has to discover her own self-worth and realize that, you know, the things about her that make her unique and special, those are her gifts. Those are her treasures to share with her family, friends, community, and the world. And so book 2, and I have not
That
shared.
sounds a little bit like your story. Just gonna say, you
Yeah,
might be
right?
might be a little bit Lupita.
Yes,
you
there is
sharing
definitely.
your gifts, and your talents and your treasures with so many people too.
Thank you so much. And you know, I have to say that, you know, before being a children's book author, I was a teacher for many years, and
Was there certain what grade?
I taught everything. I started out in preschool. I taught kindergarten, primary, middle school. I taught high school, and I finished off with adult ed in Santa Paula, and loved every single grade level I taught, all the different students that I worked with. And so I know that teaching is also a calling. And so I feel like through my books, I can still continue that, which is teaching, which is like, you know, my first love. But I was going to say that, you know, Lupita's Treasure is really important because it spreads a message. And even on days where, you know, I'm struggling with other things, I know that I have to get up, show up, and spread that message. And maybe it's not going to hit the whole world, but for every single person that hears about my story, that hears the message in the story, that we're all treasures, and our gifts are something that, you know, the whole world is waiting for. And if we don't show up, and if we don't tell our story, and if we don't follow our dreams, then not only have we lost out, but so has the world.
There's a parable about that, right? Like you take your talents and you bury your talent that God has given you. And we talk about that with purpose and the things that you do, because that's what could get you out of bed, right? If you feel like you're waking up to something that you don't really feel fulfillment, you know, it's harder. It maybe not, you don't jump out of bed with that same excitement, or the days that you do, because we're still human beings, right? Where days like, man, I don't, you know, I just want to hang out or lay low or just, you know, something like that. Like we all go through these emotional feelings, right? Just day-to-day grind and what goes on. And but when you feel like you're having a purpose for it, that purpose, it could be the driving factor to help keep you inspired and motivated as well. Yeah. So that purpose. But again, if you have a talent that the Lord's given you, every person, man, has a uniqueness inside of them that, you know, either you let it, you know, you multiply it or you bury it, right? And then the servant that buried their talent, you know, or their purpose, he took it from them, you know, use it or lose it. So
Absolutely.
Way to say, like, you know, we are a purpose. Yesterday we were at EO Green and we brought these little shells out. It's going to be one of the episodes. The message for the episode is coming out of your shell.
Oh,
right?
I love
you know,
that.
don't, you know, come out of your shell and don't, you know, but also we have like 5 or 6 shells that are very similar, but each one has their own unique differences, right? So you have the same type of seashell, but you could see some had kelp growing on them or different coloration and stuff. But again, so I was telling the kids, like, you're all in 7th grade, a lot of you are the same ethnicity, right? But you're all individuals and different.
Absolutely.
And at that age, this is where you're either going to be a follower or you're going to remember your own identity and about the things that you love that make you unique, you know. And don't get into that age where, that's what I was asking you, what grade were you in teaching, because there's this like little, and if you're working with the young ones or the middle, is where you could be influenced on which direction you want to go. Are you going to follow the crowd, or are you going to do what you love to do? Like, I really love this, but that's the cool kids or my friends, they're not really into that, you know. And how you could still follow your passion. And so, because right now, it feels like there's this people that are like, this is the new, you know, better version of me, or healing, or the way that they're coming about. And it's like, why didn't you, you know, you're in your 40s barely realizing this, right? And if we could help teach youngsters that, and people that they could still go after it, even if you've been through circumstances or situation, like you said, a life quake, right? That you could, once you find that purpose, that could be something that really gives you momentum per day, man.
Absolutely. And that's the thing about my story and the messages in both of my books, is that, you know, things happen and it's easy for us to follow the crowd, but I don't think that's what makes us feel fulfilled as people, and it's not what makes us happiest. And that's what Lupita figures out in Lupita's Treasure, is that by doing what's important to her, what she values, is where she finds her true happiness.
And what is she, about a 3rd grader, 2nd grader? Do you have any, you know, what is she?
She's like a 1st grader in the story. The second book, she'll be a little bit older than that. And I was going to say that the second one, and I'm revealing the title right now, it's...
Here it is, exclusive. Exclusive.
Drum roll. It is...
Sorry, Barry.
It is called Lupita's Surprise. And it is
surprise.
Yes, surprise. And it is an extension of Lupita's Treasure in some ways. Because, you know, the other thing about life is that we encounter a lesson in life, right? We work through it. Hopefully we get through it. But the thing is, it shows up oftentimes again in disguise. And that's where the extension comes from the first book, is that, it's not always one and done. Things show up again, and it's because we still have to work through those. Mm-hmm. So she's experiencing maybe some more self-doubt and so on, but she has to have courage. Mm-hmm. She has to believe in herself and not follow the crowd and do what's important to her. And by doing that, that is not only showing that we are good enough, but it's like the ultimate gift. And the other thing about Lupita's surprise is that, there are surprises and gifts that show up every single day in our lives. But what happens to us, I think, is that maybe something goes wrong. I'm just going to take kids for an example because I was a teacher for so many years. Mm-hmm. And you're starting off your day, maybe you're on the bus and somebody hits you in the back of the head and calls you stupid, or says, hey, your shoes are dumb, or whatever. And even though yesterday the coach patted you on the back and said, man, you caught that ball out there, great job, or the teacher says, hey, I really appreciate your story that you wrote, it just erases everything. Mm-hmm. Just that one simple thing.
I used to be in pest control. Remember, Scotty?
Oh, yeah.
You have these retractors, right? Or detractors. It was more like at Terminex, and we'd see a little bit of it at Orkin. But, I could have 10 customers be like, the greatest. And then one customer, he didn't call or something. Or the sales guy,
exactly.
It'd make it a detractor score, right? It's like anything under an 8. And I remember this is something I worked on. And I'm like in my 30s looking at to be like, why did I let that one customer, out of 99, that one negative comment or review can upset me and take away all the joy that I have from the 99 that think I'm the best technician that's ever serviced their house. Because I used to say, like, world-class pest control, even though I work for them. Yeah. That's what I offered all my customers, right? Sure. No matter what's going on, you get world-class service, right? Even that was funny because they had, like, when I would walk in, the fellow techs would be like, world-class is here, like, because I held my standard to that, right?
Right.
But the point of that is I could get all those compliments and then the next day. But you know what helped me, though, there was I had a mentor myself named Big Compton Crip, so we kind of got along real well because he seemed like he understood the lingo, right? The disrespect things and things like that we take in. So he'd be like, K-Mac, they got your feelings, K-Mac. They got you in your feelings, man. You can't control that, K-Mac. And it'd be funny. So he called me K-Mac, but he was one of the ones that started having me analyze what I couldn't control, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I'd be like, nah, man, it's crazy, And he'd be like, K-Mac, let me talk to you for a second, K-Mac. And we still talk to this day. I called him on New Year's Eve. And we got some stuff. He moved out to Texas, and we might go out there to do some kid fishing days with them in Texas.
Nice.
But he was the one that would really, I think sometimes in mentorship, what do you think? It's also like, who you get your mentorship. Like, advice isn't everything. Like, people are like, oh, you don't take criticism. I don't need it from everybody. Like, there's people that have that you allow to help critique you and criticize you for your own growth. Not That's everybody's opinion, right? So you value them because they're trying to develop you and help you out. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
Not like everybody's opinion. Like, I don't need all your guys' opinions on how I should do my business or what I should do, right? Like, going to McDonald's and tell them how to make a Big Mac. You might not get it with onions because you don't like them, but you're not in the back telling the manager, how they should start doing it, right?
A coach that I had as I was getting my book ready for launching shared with me that, look for people that are in your arena. And it doesn't mean they have to be an author necessarily, but maybe they promote. That's why you were able to be helpful to me. So it's like sometimes
let me tell you why, though. Jump into that.
Yeah.
Again, if Mo's helping me and you have these mentors that have given me service, even though I, like in the middle, I was trying to say, yeah, if you want to need any more services, I could do that. But I just feel like being a servant leader is my first goal, right? So if I have the services and I have the resources to help somebody else up and coming, I think that's our duty to do that, is just to show that's how you build community. But, I feel like you're paying it forward because of the people that help mentor me as well. So there's people
Absolutely.
that I'm just giving you what somebody given to me, man, and you're going to give it to somebody else.
Absolutely. And that's, one of the reasons that I write books. And that's one of the reasons that I love to go and have an opportunity to be a guest speaker, because I feel like it's my opportunity to share with kids, some of my own story, but also help get them on track, or, give them ideas, or help them follow their own dreams. And if they don't know what their dream is, help them think about that. And
so who was that coach here? Sorry, I jumped in and you were saying there was a coach that gave you some advice.
She was an author. She's still out there. Brittany Marie, and she just sat down with me, and we talked a little bit about that, about, because, you're going to, as an author, this too, you're going to get reviews from people that say, I didn't like your story. They might not even have read your story, but they're
being a
say,
filmmaker and you send your videos out, people
Yeah,
reply
right?
back and like, what?
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
I was going to say that it was really interesting at one event that I gave. I did my Q&A, right? And so a parent raised her hand and she said, well, how do you handle rejection or that? And it kind of, made me think for a second. And, for me, we all do things kind of differently, but I had to just I sit with something for a moment. I think about it for a little bit, but I process it. But I also know that I'm doing what I can within the experience that I have. I learn from lessons all the time. It's a learning experience for me. When somebody calls it a failure, I think she used the word failure instead of rejection. I don't like that word necessarily because I feel like if I'm learning something, how can that be a failure? And so then I also remind myself my why. Okay. Why do I do this? Because I feel like I have a message, and who better to tell the story than me, because I am passionate about it. My blood, sweat, and tears go into what I do. And Kevin, I know you feel the same way. So gotta get out there.
I got two things on that, right? We do get parents sometimes that ask questions, and sometimes I think they just want to, because we're a family engagement program. I was thinking of two things, because when we had you here for a speaker, you were one of the ones asking a lot of the questions. Remember we had Sherry here, the lady from you engage, like you're really good at engaging with people and asking those questions because you're a student as well. You want to learn,
absolutely,
right? But sometimes you do get those sideways questions of people that are just kind of like throwing out that when you have a crowd, and just how you get through that. If they're just like is it a heckle question?
Or are you serious about wanting to know? And I didn't know if she wanted the kids to hear that. But I've had third, fourth, fifth graders that ask some pretty good questions too. I think
okay. So when we do our program, something I've learned over the last couple of years, when we start to have an age group, right? Like our Oceans of Opportunity initially it was for fifth grade through high school.
Right.
And then we had a couple people that brought the younger ones in, like a third or fourth grade, and bring them in because I've learned that the younger ones can be more mature. Well, a couple of things. They can be more mature than I heard my pastor, one of them saying that you have men that are still boys and you have boys that are already like little men, right? Sure. Because of the way that they think. But having the littles, they can be an icebreaker to make the cool kids ask questions, right? Because usually we're like, anybody got any questions? And the little ones are just like, well, how does this? And what? They're looking up at you. And then that will open up the rest of the room for the next question to be asked.
People get a little more comfortable with
when you bring them in together that way. Because when you're in a classroom like just eighth graders, like everybody's afraid to be too cool. Like, oh my God, that's the first question. Even if they want to. No, because the cool kids sit back. So trying to find ways to engage with those different, like you say, but those third to fifth graders, and I tell them that at the school because now junior high goes 6th through 8th. Mm-hmm. Like the sixth graders still got backpacks with cars on them, and they're all, what I mean?
They're rollies.
Right. They're still cool and running around. And then 7th grade, you're kind of like, looking at the 8th graders, you start dressing the same, you start looking the same, right? And then again, you lose your identity because now you're blending in and fitting in. And then the 8th graders, I swear when I work with them sometimes, they're the ones that are like, hey, fool, what's up? But I remember, here's what I remember. Man, were we those 8th graders, those kids, man? And I'm like, I remember we were playing Baby. You ever play the game Baby Bridges?
No.
Any word that starts with the letter B, you punch your friend, right?
Oh.
You say Baby Bridges, right? And I remember we were at a Scouts at a Mormon church, and we were playing Baby Bridges, and the guy's name was Brother Bradshaw or something. So every time somebody would say his name, we would just slug each other. And he's like, what are you guys doing? We were just being disruptive. And so at least I'm there to understand why they're that way, but there's that age group where you're still impressionable for you to really lay it on them to keep their imagination.
Right.
And then as they start to transition through. So having them in a group setting of different ages could be an icebreaker for the other ones. And that's it goes through adults. Even in meetings, when we do these things, we have icebreakers because that's what people start to feel. And then all of a sudden, everybody's hand goes up, right? It's that first one. Anybody got a question? Anybody? And then, we only have enough time for one more question because now people are asking the questions.
Yeah, so. I love that. Yeah, some of the kids in some of the school groups that I've been have asked, what inspired you to write your book? If you could do it differently, what would you do? I mean,
what are some of those answers? Like, what is it? Just the same? What inspired you? Just a refresher on that.
Well, I think being a teacher all those years and just seeing, for Lupita's Treasure, anyways, so many kids, and I'm going to say kids because I did everything from kindergarten, and I ended up with adults who still didn't believe in themselves and their self-worth.
Good.
So that was my inspiration for writing this
Man, we
story.
can go on a whole podcast about self-worth, and also
Right?
like even when when I talk about the church thing and what we're saying, like how we chant things, man. And if you tell people they're not worthy and we use those types of words, man, like people in here are adults trying to find their worth, no matter their value.
That's right.
And if we tell them to chant, I'm not worthy, then it's like, I don't know, man. There's got to be a way to be a worthy, and you know what I'm saying, where people already feel that fractured mentality.
Right.
You know?
And one of the biggest groups that I had to do.
Question.
Go ahead.
So because if you're doing families and the stuff that you're doing, those parents are
Right.
asking, you could be planting seeds in them to start thinking about
Absolutely.
what they're doing,
Absolutely. And one of my favorite presentations I did, it was a really big group, mostly adults and some kids. I tell my story, and this was a setting where they're trying to learn English. And I was saying, I said, I get it. I said, it took me 3 years to get this book together. I said, I made every mistake possible. And I said, for me, I said, I just couldn't give up though. I mean, some days I wanted to and I would put it aside. And I said, there was a couple people that would push me. I said, but I had to get out of bed, get to my laptop and push myself. But I remember this one quote that I came across, and I put it in Spanish and I have it in English. And it was like,
Say it in Spanish first and then say it in English first.
No, I got to do it in English first.
Okay.
Okay, so it was like, do it scared. Okay, hazlo asustado. Do it messy. Do it desordenado. Do it scared. Do it messy. Do it imperfect. Hazlo imperfecto. Do it anyway. Hazlo a todos modos. In other
Exactly.
words, it's, and as soon as I got over that I had to be perfect, and I'd see all these other authors with all this great stuff, and I was just fumbling my way thinking I'm going to quit because I'm no good at this. When I told myself, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be totally organized. It's nice if you do, but this first time around, just get out there and do it and be scared, but do it anyways.
Teaching that to our team right now, right? Because they want, which is cool. Again, we got a standards. I use this term like, we're a taco truck, not a restaurant yet. Meaning, you can go to a taco truck and they're fire, right? It's
Yeah.
bomb food,
Great
right out the door.
food, yeah.
But there's a limit of what they could get done.
Sure.
They don't have the mocajetes coming out and the steam. They can't, there's only, there's about 5 items on the menu and they're still really, really good. And
Right.
that's how we are as we're transitioning into, now we have to see
Absolutely.
all of our video equipment that we've obtained. But they get disgruntled and we got to have, I'm like, bro, this is like this one right here, coastal critters. That's why we have that word of the day is
I'm going.
that's right. So the first episode is mindset, consistency, and MAC. Mindset, attitude, and consistency. The second words of the 2 words of the day on the second episode are confidence and communication, right? Because
love
again,
it.
but you're so focused on these couple of them on all the little things, especially as filmmakers, right? Because we're like, we notice the glitches or we notice
Sure.
the cutaways and stuff, where the audience at home doesn't really pay attention to it that way.
No.
But it's like, bro, we got to be realistic. This is just a demo, man. Like, this is just to show a proof of concept, and then we'll get to the 3-camera shoot with all the lavalier mics and a boom mic and people to handle all those, right? But I've always been like that. Just go for it, right? We'll iron out the little details, and I even use the word mistakes on how we could do, just make that better. But if we were to wait till we had it perfect, man, people just sit around waiting for that to happen and just move in on what you got and then make some adjustments. And
That's how you learn. That's all the steps to learning to get to be where you see yourself. And the thing is if we stop, if we allow this whole idea of being a perfectionist, which is really fear that we don't want people to be critical of us, if we allow that to happen, it's like paralysis. We never get anywhere. We just sit there, and 20 years later, I would be saying, I wish I wrote that book.
what was the term we used last week, Scott? Boldness, right? Have to be bold, right? And I think that's
Yes.
where people have, and if you have that little bit of boldness,
I call it courage in my book because it's the fear of the unknown. Like anytime I go to a setting where I have to present my book, I don't know if there's going to be one person showing up or a room full, or what kind of questions I'll get, or somebody won't like my story and will raise your hand or walk out. I never know, but it's just like having that courage to say, you know what? I believe in my book. I believe in my message. I'm showing up anyways.
You know how many days we had a kid fishing, like our classroom at the church where 0 people showed up? Nobody, not even one. We were like, nobody. And I remember Kevin Jr. got all the little pieces out. Remember we talked about it when we interviewed him about 3 weeks ago. And it's like, yeah, but we still showed up, man. I don't know. I don't have that what if mentality. And I did at Orkin, right? And I remember this is where I talked to God, because I was like, okay, I'm going to go in and ask for 3 days instead of 5 days a week, right? And I almost talked myself like, oh, what if they think, and I got home and God was like, what if it all goes right though, Kevin? So I wrote this little thing out, like thanking him, hey, I appreciate it because what you given me, like I went in there with my right attitude was one of our words, and I was like thankful and grateful for, this job. I got benefits for me and my children. We're doing all right. But the time has come for me to cut this out, because I did work for another company that when I was doing my filmmaking, the manager was like, a stupid show, and we're letting you have time off to go to class. And it's like, no, bro, there's a law that I get certain hours off to go either to school or to my kids' functions or coach's game. Like, there's a California law that allows me a certain amount of hours off per month, so I could do that stuff, that I'm not just stuck here forever. But he didn't like it, right? And just wasting my time, and I didn't care about my job, even though, again, I was giving world-class pest control, right? It was just something on him. So thinking that at Orkin, when I was about to shift over to part-time, and they called me like at noon, right? And we're like, hey, Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is fine. You have that schedule and that route. And I'll tell you this funny, this guy that we're not friends anymore on the book because of that, he started saying that on our Facebook post, like, oh, we had to pick up what you're doing. It's like, yeah, but you're stuck there, bro. I had enough courage to get up and out of there.
Absolutely.
You had to pick up my work. Yeah, it's not your work. I worked out an agreement with it. So if you have animosity because you're stuck and you can't make a move and you're seeing somebody else, it just looks like you have a little envy, bro, on your breath. And that's what that, but I went through that part of wondering it, but I wrote it out and I went in there and everything. And again, what if it all just goes right? And then that kind of, help where we're at today.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things when I do go into groups and I work with older kids, but even younger kids, we create kind of this thing that we say to ourselves, like a little mantra or whatever. And I know mine, when I was doing the book, it started out with, I'm strong, I'm bold, or I'm courageous, I'm resilient, I am successful, I have a message that's important and the world is waiting to hear it. And so it's just like, it went on to 2 pages now. And so whenever you're doubting yourself, I still use this one. I pull it out and I just, first thing in the morning, before I even get out of bed, I just start reading it. And by the time I get to the bottom, I am fired up. It's just like, you have the cheerleaders that, cheer the team on. Mm-hmm. Well, sometimes we have to be our own best cheerleader,
yes,
right?
We do. I cheer for myself.
That's right. Whether it's a song you play and you.
So that's what I told somebody the other day, because about arrogance versus your what is it? My confidence could be looked at as arrogance. I know.
I get
Prime
similar.
Time says that. Deion Sanders, right? You can mistake my confidence for arrogance. But who else is going to cheer for me?
That's right.
If I'm doubting me, and I'm the first. And if I'm not my number one fan, and again, it's not. And this is again goes back and forth with being a man of faith, right? Of what, again, in your subconscious mind of doing that. Yeah, we give all the glory to God, we do, but some days I got to tell myself I'm amazing too, right? I got to tell myself that I do feel this way about
Every
myself
day.
Because if I don't do it, you know what I'm saying? Again, now there's a vanity way
Absolutely.
of doing it, right? Where in that procedure that might be like, looked upon, but that's every individual could have their own meter of where that sits at, right?
Absolutely.
But they're almost like tell you that how you should avoid all that, but it's like, no, man, especially people that have doubt their whole life and you finally find peace with yourself, glory to God too, but also sometimes you got to be like, yeah, I'm proud that I stayed obedient.
Absolutely.
I'm proud that I'm proud of you, Kevin. I'll look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, man, I'm proud of you today, bro.
I do the same thing. I do. I'll go, you're strong, you're courageous. I love you, and I think that's what I'm talking about.
Again, biblically, the power is in the tongue. And I think sometimes people say the meanest things to themselves, right?
And that's where Lupita's surprise comes in. And that's what I was trying to mention, that we have to be our cheerleader. We have to change that voice around that's always telling us, you're dumb, just because our friend told us we're dumb or something like that went wrong. We have to be that voice. We have to change that whole voice. And that's where that personal mantra
it could be a kid, or it could be a teacher that tells you like
our
what you're
coach,
doing,
our brother,
right?
The bus driver. It could be anybody. And as adults, it's, somebody flips a sauce as they drive by.
Do you ever? There's a guy named Jim Ron, and he talks about your. He's like, imagine if somebody comes by and pours like, into your thinking, into this machine, right? You got to guard your mind, and again, biblically, you got to go back and forth, right? Because it's all philosophy, right? Guard your thoughts, right? Watch your thoughts, guard them, and then if somebody's throwing trash into this right here, right? You can't prevent it from people dropping that strychnine, killing your thoughts. And he goes into it a little bit better than I'm explaining it to you right now. But he's like, your thinking is centered. And again, if you listen to Napoleon Hill and these other philosophers talk about the importance of the positive thinking and that doing that, and what you let seep in there, or you let whoever else you let get into your brain. Wow, I'm preaching myself on that. So do you have momentum? Like when you once you get the first book done, does it give you the confidence like I can write 5 of these now?
Absolutely. I mean, now I see it as a series. I was like kind of one and done, and then I realized that it was a series, and so book 2 is, coming out a little bit delayed. My illustrator, because illustrators are so important to a picture book, and they bring the words to life. It's like magic. So I just decided to give her a little bit of time, space to work through things.
You know how much time and space? Because you're still going to set the deadline.
No, she's actually on track now.
Okay.
So we've got illustrations.
Just be careful.
coming in.
And can I jump in on you on that? Is sometimes we give a little bit too much grace, man. You got to know, again, your vision and your dream can't stop on somebody else. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's something we cleaned up this year, because I'm always like, oh no, it's okay, you can get it. And like, no, man, I'm an artist. I need a deadline. I need you to stick to your hard deadline, even that, because that's part of being the confidence, right? You can be pushed over and be like, oh, it's all right, and then your project is suffering. I'm not saying that's happening to you, but in people in general, I've been on the other side of that where it's cool, we can get it done, versus being like, nah, bro, I need a deadline, and I need you to get this done. I don't need homie love. I need a project. Well,
I learned a lesson with this book, because I actually had a different illustrator, and I had that situation where she was suffering from, I'm going to say mental illness, and I gave her time, and then realized it wasn't going to happen. And so I ended up, it was really difficult. I had to let her go, and she said, "You're firing me." And I was like,
you fired yourself. You quit on me.
I had to do that. So this is not this. I learned from that lesson.
Read the book.
Yeah, I did. I changed the date because I wanted continuity. I wanted her illustrations, but it's not going to set me back like so much time that it would really set me off track. So yeah, there is momentum, and I'm excited.
Right, so we got the Luke Harbor coming out, right? And then I have students and interns, so they can only work around their schedule, right?
Oh yeah.
And so we got it to where it's at, and the same thing, deadline. She's like, "Oh, this," and I was like, "No, I need an answer. I don't need to know what the issues are. I need an answer on when it's going to be done, Or you got to show up here more, but there's a deadline for this, and we got to get it put together." So we got that figured out, and then we sent it to our printer, and she had to do a second edit to be like, it's too long. And, looking at, we need to be by the 28th, so that way they're done a week before the premiere. We can't have it. So we need to make some modifications, but we came across the deadline, and then sending it to our printer, knowing that she's a wizard, but she has other projects too, so she's able to fit it in, because I do have a deadline. We do have this thing coming up. So we went through something similar and realizing, okay, procedures and protocols going forward. And again, this is business, right?
Absolutely.
So it'd be like, I can't just let it keep sliding, right? Oh, I got this. No, I don't know. I know your project's due next week. That's what I do know. So why are we suffering? Because you have these other things that are going on. But I think, again, so the term that we have in this new episode is about communication, is how we communicate it, right? These are deliverables that I need. It's not a personal thing. This is you're firing me. No, I'm not firing you. I'm just moving on because you kind of fired, you know what I mean? Like your deliverables on what my schedule, my routine is, cannot suffer. And if you can't handle that workload or that capacity, at least you set the expectation in the front, And I'm learning how to communicate that to my staff.
Yeah, and that's what I learned.
Because if we are go-getters, ain't everybody built like to the ground till they hit the floor to the end of the day.
Right.
And but again, if you're paying somebody for a duty or a task, just like in pet, like there's an expectation of, what do we call it, Scotty? Remember, a realistic expectation.
That's right.
Yeah,
but if we communicate that at the front on why the product has to be done by here, that way if it doesn't, you can go back and be like, well, you didn't fulfill the agreement.
Yeah, and I'm in a similar situation in that I have like an author showcase coming up, and I have some other events where I want to bring in my second book.
You got any events coming up you want to promote here? What do you got? Anything coming up you want to throw out there?
I'm doing a school event at the end of this month, and then I have some things in the spring. But hopefully I'll have my new book coming out. And those are some author showcases. I'm doing one in Oxnard. And then I'm doing another one, Literacy Night, and that will be in Thousand Oaks. So I'm spreading my range just a little bit,
I got invited to a Chamber of Commerce over in Conejo Valley. So I'm like to go out there and start going over the grade and getting into those school districts.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do as well.
You'll do it?
Yep. Expand.
Because again, you're only a one-man team, kind of, right?
Yes.
So there is a capability, of what you want to do, but again, realistic expectation that if I get over there and get one more district in, because also, when you're looking at it, these schools and stuff we got about 2 more minutes. These schools have schedules and routines too, right? So it's like they are setting up right now for fall or summer school. So once you learn that calendar, then you can work your other box stores. Here's some more marketing for you guys at home listening. That you got to look at the calendar to see, again, when their times are, right? Their series, because you have summer series that come out when they're on summer camps that you could be a part of, you got the box stores like Barnes and Noble or these learning centers.
Yeah, and there's also, like, for me, Children's Day coming up.
Yeah.
You know, so I want to make sure that my second book is out, so I'm ready to do those things. So, you know, there's,
But following, so you have your deadline because you have to get it ready for, again, the school calendar that's going to come out, right? In this series,
Yes.
the spring and the summer. And, you know, we have open houses starting again right now because it's the new season. So I get it, man. And once you learn that, then that's how you can base, you know, either
Absolutely.
making a living on this and you're speaking and you're talking and
spreading the message.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
spreading the community love. So Lupita's surprise, and it is coming out.
I'm hoping that it'll be out February. I'm going to say March because that's when it'll be out to the public. I do a launch in February for my team.
So
and
we
then
got to
it comes
get you
out.
scheduled at the end of February, then to be a guest speaker here, so that way we can be one of your first.
I would love that. Yeah. That'd be
I don't
great.
like to say I don't go tit for tat, keep tally scores, but I think if we're buddies like that, that one of your premieres should be with me. One simple request, right? I like to be like, yeah, we got VIP. So yesterday we had a youth come in, and he's going to be our first youth chair for our board of directors, right? And kind of got voluntold and put on it, but I was like, look, man, you can tell your grandkids one day that you were on the board for one of the coolest, not like I really pump it up to them,
Yeah,
right? To see
absolutely,
like
of course.
who they are and where we're at as a guppy, you know what I'm saying? Like really ingrain that into
What a great experience, anyways, you know?
Yeah, he's a paid intern here right now. He worked his way through, but to be like, yeah, I was the first one to be there for the coolest, and he might opt out. That's what it says right there, right?
Yeah.
The coolest educational television show
Yeah.
coming out, and that's
Well,
what
I'm
we
looking
teach
forward
them.
to that.
So if you were here to, premiere that for the coolest nonprofit when it comes out, that'd be pretty cool.
I'd love to. Absolutely.
All right, I got the calendar there. Anything else you want to put on, or I'll start teaching?
Instagram or website or?
Yes, I'm Books by Lola Cruz on Instagram, so follow me, and then you'll have all the updates.
Lola Cruz, LOLACRUZ, Lola Cruz.
That's right. You can also find me on LinkedIn as well.
Let me ask you, is LinkedIn social media?
It's considered, but
Okay.
it's like more the business.
What?
It's more business.
Professional.
A little bit.
Professional.
I've been watching
Professional.
around. It looks like Facebook for executives
It's really
sometimes,
close.
right?
It's close.
But
Yeah.
the point is, because I'm fasting right now from social media and food
are you?
from 8 p.m. till
My daughter's fasting
till
social
11
media.
a.m. And I'm like, I gotta put some stuff up on it for our Blue Carpet premiere. And I'm like, is LinkedIn, is that networking or is that social? It's all networking in my eyes, but
Yes, it
I
is.
can't even but I do listen to podcasts on YouTube. A couple of men that I'm listening to. So I'm like, is that social media? I'm not trying to use the gray area, but I'm not allowed. I'm just kind of preventing myself to going on until 11 o'clock. So I just need somebody to verify whether or not I could justify LinkedIn posts before 11
I think
o'clock.
you can. I
You
think
sure?
you can.
It's like checking my emails, right? Yeah. I can't check my emails.
There you go.
But part of that is this fast forward is where do I put my mind first thing in the morning? Am I waiting out of bed and I'm already scrolling, or am I spending that time leaning on God and checking in my devotion, right? That my day isn't starting out just scrolling. So that's the break too, and being like,
That's
you'll
me
find
too.
yourself doing that. So it's just an alternative right now. So
Yeah,
that's the
it's
reason.
it's creating for me. It's creating how I want to start my day. And for a while I was like doing my phone first, and then I'd get all off track, and then it was like, okay, no, this is what's important to me first. This is how I start my day, and it sets the the day for me.
Yeah, rituals.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that's what I'm working on that for myself. But I do use it a lot as a tool as well. But I just thought it's something I can give away. And I tried to pick it up. I was at the gym today doing legs, and usually on my legs day, I think I seen you there. I hate legs. So when you're sitting in the leg extension,
That's not my favorite
and you're
either.
waiting for the next one out. That's usually where I get to scrolling, and I'm like, oh, hey, get out of there! Hey,
Oops,
hey,
oops.
What are you doing? Get out of there! Let your mind slow down. Like you don't have to keep stimulating it the whole time. Like
Right.
Just being that. And I was like, what if I put on
Absolutely.
a podcast while I'm working out? But I need music though. I need to be like, So, all right, everybody, that's gonna do it. Hey, whatever rituals, man, that you need to practice to find yourself to get centered or regulate, because you have a lot going on in life and it could stress you out, or overthinking stuff, man. Like just, if we could give you
out
any
of your
type of
head.
encouragement, man, is something that you need that we all should be seeking. On a
Absolutely.
daily basis in our own type of way. The way I do it might not be the way you do it versus the way Lola does it, or D-Lo might do it, but at least to make it a habit of healthy habits. Healthy habits.
That's right.
All right.
So just remember, we're all treasures. Absolutely. And look for all those surprises, in your life, because they're there. They're showing up, and you just might be missing them. So get the mind, that monkey mind that's telling you that, you're not good enough or whatever. send it to its room and bring in all those surprises.
That's right. I like that. You're a treasure. We're all treasures. All right, everybody, check it out, and she'll be here in about a month and a half then, and we'll put that up to promote that as you being one of our guest speakers. Sound good?
Sounds
thank
perfect.
Thank you, D-Lo,
All right.
aka Muscle. Gary, take us out. Let's go.
To learn more about Real Guppy Outdoors, please visit www.communitykevin.com. Brought to you by AftCo Fishing Apparel and Tackle, designed to perform. Channel Island Sport Fishing, offering deep-sea fishing on quality sport fishing charter boats, and more. Costa Sunglasses. Discover life's greatest adventures with Costa. See what's out there. Daiwa. If you want innovation and quality in your fishing products, Daiwa has what you need. This has been a Rough Edge Studios production.